My name is Morgan Creed and I'm a Senior Conservator at York Archaeology. A gold lunula is a sort of decorative collar, and this one in particular is from the Bronze Age. So the gold lunula was found in Grassington in the North Yorkshire Dales. It was found in a stream by a metal detectorist, which is quite some find. I would have loved to have known what his facial expression was when he saw that glint of gold. So I was very fortunate enough to do the conservation on the gold lunula. Gold is a really interesting metal in that, as well as being nice and shiny, it's quite chemically inert. So in terms of reactivity, it doesn't react too much around it. So we don't see loads of voluminous and sort of chunky, gnarly corrosion like you might find on an iron object, or kind of that really blue-green corrosion you see on copper alloy objects, like coins. You can very clearly see what the object is. However, there was a lot of sort of soil and sort of accretions from the riverbed and being buried that long. So the main thing that I was doing was very carefully cleaning it and removing all of those. And because gold, as I was saying, it's such an interesting material, it's really soft. So that makes it more of a challenge in some ways. I had to create a bit of a mount for it. So as I was putting pressure from a cotton swab and having a look at it under microscopy to take all the dirt off, I wasn't causing too much compression and sort of deforming the metal, because it is so thin, you can just bend it with your hands. And that's also why it's kind of got the sort of crumpled features to it. That's because of all the compression damage and sort of all the river running over it and all the stones. All of those little impacts will have an effect. We don't tend to remove them because it's part of the story of the object, and the object is very clearly interpretable. Sometimes it's really important to stabilise an object, and that's because the material that's making the object isn't particularly stable in itself. There might be different degradation phenomena sort of occurring on it. As with iron, you know, any bit of moisture and that is going to corrode. So in the conservation lab, we mainly stabilise things so they're all right for archival storage or display. But with the lunula, because it's gold, there wasn't any real chemical processes occurring that would put it at risk. The main sort of objective for the conservation in this case was cleaning it for display so it looks at its best for the public to see it. And the really nice thing about cleaning for display purposes is you can reveal details that might not have been seen under all the dirt. In this instance, there is a really beautiful sort of imprinted design around the edge of the lunula and the collar part. It's not everywhere on the lunula because it's worn away over time. However, if you happen to visit, take a close look at the edge and you'll just see that printed design. It always feels like such a privilege to work on any object. You don't tend to think about the rarity because sometimes you don't want to treat different objects differently, and also if it's something particularly important, you don't want to have in the back of your mind that additional pressure. It can really sort of make you panic, especially when you're first starting out as a conservator. But it was just such a lovely object to work on, so it feels like a real privilege to have had the opportunity to have a very, very small part in its history. Such a significant find does tell us a lot about what was going on in North Yorkshire back in the Bronze Age. It tells you there were people here, and people were making things, and it also shows you that they were working with other materials, not just bronze. You think Bronze Age and you think, oh, it'll all be copper. No, there were other metals, and significantly gold in this case.